So, if I ask myself, how much does the known get in the way of my direct experience of today, then that straight away makes me start to define the known as something which I need to interpret as getting in the way of my direct experience of today. So for me, that straight away sets up a troublesome dichotomy. I feel like exploring the notion and where it comes from that there are separate things called experiencing life and the known, and one getting in the way of the other. That to me is the difficult one, part of that. Robin was very sick and there was a lot of people there who would just, the one thing they were trying to do was to look after her and also look after us too, myself and our kids. And so that was overwhelming to be the recipient of so much care and you know, people's efforts and time and resources and concern and knowledge and all the things that people sort of swung into action. Having children around at that time who I just had to focus on what, you know, if I was by myself, for example, I could imagine, you know, missing meals or, you know, or going to bed and getting too little sleep, but having children around forced me to maintain a level of routine and a level of sort of normality that would have been good for the kids. And that was good for me too, I think. And having kids there who I felt I should be explaining things to all the time was a good way for me to be processing the current reality and what was likely to happen, what might happen, how sick Robin was, that sort of stuff. I perceived myself then as being part of a very strong, loving network of family and friends, which was a great thing, you know. And I suppose that's one of those things, you know, you asked about certainty, and I suppose I'm certain that no matter where I am and who I'm with, that the relationships that I will have with people, and I guess this would transcend even family members being around, but wherever there's people around, I'm certain that there's a force between people which motivates them to help each other. I'm as certain of that as I am of saying the sun will rise tomorrow, sort of thing, you know, and I'll get a lot of comfort from that, so that's, yeah. If I were to answer your question for this experience now, and if I were to say, okay, what's getting in the way now of me, how is the known getting in the way of me experiencing this environment here, I might say perhaps preconceptions about the value of doing nothing, sitting for 15 minutes. You know. And I didn't really experience that when we sat for 15 minutes and did nothing, but that could be one thing that I might say would get in the way of me experiencing this 15 minutes of sitting here in silence. That could be a preconception that perhaps I would have about, I've got to be back home doing the mowing, I've got to be with my family, I've got to be, you know, maintaining relationships, and I've got obligations that I didn't experience those things today sitting here. Perhaps because I'd already kind of compartmentalised this whole experience with you in my mind and thought, well, I'm just going to abandon myself to this experience, and that's great. But if you'd come to my backyard when I was in the middle of mowing the lawn and said to me, let's sit down here, and I've got my camera, let's sit down here and have this thing, just stop the mower for a minute and we'll do this. I would have said, no, I'm not going to do that now because I've got this job to do. And in that sense, perhaps if I were to say the known was, well, I've got this job that I want to finish, I've started it, I want to get it done, I've got to finish it, and that's getting in the way of me experiencing this opportunity to sit with somebody and think about life. But to me, that's still a false separation for me, because that moment of that day is actually a complex, complicated conjunction of all sorts of circumstances, all of which I'm experiencing, whether I like it or not. You know, it's like I can't, nothing can get in the way of me experiencing this, because here I am experiencing it, you know. I've got the mowing happening, and here's Alan with his wheelbarrow, and there's the kids wanting lunch, and there's the washing on the line. That all together to me is the richness of that moment of that day, you know what I mean? Yeah. Do I relish the richness, or do I stand aside from it and observe the richness, or do I remove myself from that situation and look at it as a third, and as I'm doing now, which is sort of painting a picture of a situation, and I can stand back from that now and I can see the lawn mowing, and I can see the wheelbarrow, and I can see Alan and the washing and the kids, and at that time I don't think I do that. I don't think I can be impartial about that. But at the time it's happening, that and other things, I'm there, I'm experiencing that. There are some things that we hang on to as certainties or knowledge which maybe get in the way of experiencing things in a fuller way. And I think it's good to think about that, because there are probably ways that I can experience moments of every day in a fuller way. But then when I say, well, what's a fuller way? I mean, to me, that's a very vague sort of thing to be seeking. Experience things in a fuller way. In what ways does my assumptions or knowledge or the things that I feel are certain and known, in what ways do they get in the way of better outcomes for me and the people around me? And I can answer that, if that is similar to what you're asking, I can answer that probably a bit better by saying that probably my self-perceptions get in the way of me experiencing things more richly or better, but I wouldn't label those self-perceptions as the known, you know. I'd label those as just probably hang-ups, you know, or habits.